So give me just a few minutes to tell you how the power of words create wealth and abundance in your life. So a couple of brief stories about me specifically, and instances where people told me something about myself that actually created an image of who I was in my mind that I used for success. So the first brief story is I used to have a senior person working with me in the company where I was. Got to know me over a few years, and I ended up leaving the company, but I stayed friends with this gentleman. And I had a conversation with him a couple years later, and we were just talking about things in life. And toward the end of the conversation, he said to me, "Well, Brian, one day I know you're going to be CEO, so everything's going to be good for you." And because of who he was and his pedigree, the way he carried himself, he was a leader. Because of who he was, those words embedded into me and started to shape my actual view of who I was. And it also happened a few years later when I was in graduate school. There was a guy in my class who was generally just a really cool guy. He had such a calm demeanor and personality about him, and I just felt he was really genuine and authentic. And we had to do a presentation in one of our classes where we spoke in front of people. And everybody gets nervous about public speaking. But at the end of it, he came up to me and he looked at me and he was just talking a little bit, but he looked me in the eyes and said, "I really like you in front of people. I really do. You've got a presence about you." And that, for the longest time, shaped the narrative in my mind also about me being generally good in front of people. Like, I could speak in a public setting and I felt comfortable doing that. So it tells you the power of how when somebody who's in a position that you respect, or a person that has a certain set of skills tells you something about yourself, you can ingrain that in your personality. And you know what? I did end up becoming essentially the CEO of my own company, or a partner, very similar. And I've always carried confidence in front of people. And a lot of that stems back to the words of this one person. So you think about that and you say, well, Brian, well, of course, if people who are more successful than me tell me like, hey, I've got these qualities, it's great and I can use that for confidence, but how do I do that myself? Well, let's talk about that. So the place for you to start is essentially what you know you're good at, what you've proven to yourself time and time again. So when we start to create this personality for ourselves, we start to have successes and confidence in certain areas, that builds upon it on itself. And you know this from your own experiences. You've had times where you've had success in something and you carry that to the next experience. So we need to think about what we're really good at. I've had some conversations recently where I see people that have clearly had success in certain areas, but it's almost like they forget. It's like the day-to-day external factors of life weigh on you, and you start to focus a lot more on what you might not be and might not have, as opposed to this ingrained skill set. And we all have unique, creative, ingrained skill sets endowed within us. We know what they are because we've seen them in work. We might still have to grow them, but we know our innate talents and abilities, the things that just we feel good about, we feel confident in. So we have to trust those and build upon those. In the areas where we have some work to do, we do that work, but we ingrain in our mind a sense of confidence in who we are that's tied to our unique abilities. And that begins to build us up and give us confidence. And it's with that confidence, we can leverage that confidence to go into areas of uncertainty and feel really good about going into new places when we feel a little bit of that nervousness, to offset it with this confidence where we know we're good. So talk to yourself, be intuitive, think about where you're good at things, where you've set yourself apart, and remind yourself of that. You have a unique skill set that has proven itself to you, where you've been successful. You know what it is. Remind yourself of it and leverage it. The last thing I'll say is how important it is in generally for us to be authentic with people that mean something to us. I think back about these two stories and these two examples of these two people and how literally one sentence that both of these people said to me, I carried with me for year after year after year, built a success upon a foundation of two statements that somebody said to me because they gave me so much confidence. So if we can do that for other people, if you recognize the innate talents and abilities in others, tell them what they're good at. Be that voice, be that one person that they look at and say, man, I can't believe Brian told me that about myself. I've been so confident. It's so great to hear. You can literally be the person that gives someone the foundation upon which they can build great things.